Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're listening to us. My name is Bryan, and I'll be your host for today's podcast. With me is Abdullah
Hello, everyone.
and Matthew.
Hey everybody.
It's the transfer market of summer 2019, and Barcelona has been quiet. Do you think Barcelona can reinforce this team and try to compete for every title as the club has tried to do in the past years, or will it go short on signings and departures? What do you think, Abdullah?
I think you touched on a good aspect here, and the fact that the signings are made supposedly to reinforce the team to help us win all the trophies available. And I think at the moment that the problem with like winning all the trophies available isn't the squad you have. I thought the squad we had this season was sublime. I thought we could actually go all the way, win all trophies. The treble wasn't that unimaginable. It was very imaginable and doable, actually. It was just the fact that we're coached by a mediocre coach who shouldn't be at the place he is. I don't think that we need signings to fight for all trophies, but we definitely need a new manager. However, with the new signings that are being brought in, they're all great signings in my opinion. I think the words of De Jong, Griezmann, possibly De Ligt. There's many options on the table, but again, it's not the main thing we need to win all the trophies. You need a better manager who can um, get the best out of the squad. I think in the first season Valverde went through, we didn't like the way that was being played. We didn't like the 4-4-2, but we gave a little bit of excuse and a little bit of room for like wiggle room because of the squad. We said the squad can be improved upon, and we didn't reinforce the squad last summer. And I thought it would be enough to win all trophies this season, but the problem was proven to be within the manager and not within the squad itself.
What about you, Matthew? What do you think of this? Does Barca have to keep on spending and try to compete for all the trophies next season? Or is the squad we have right now and the confirmed signings and departure enough to try and dream again?
Actually, I think that no matter what player you bring, we will win absolutely nothing next season, or at the very best, one title. Because the problem with Barcelona is the fact that the manager is not using the players to their best. Most players, the new players, they haven't evolved at all. The new ones, they haven't developed. They haven't improved. Most players play at the same level they used to play at when they were at their former clubs, like Dembele, like Arthur, like Longley. I think that to improve as a team, as a club, to compete on all fronts once more, we need a better manager. We need a manager who will work on offensive animation, who will make the team work. The problem is that Valverde in training sessions, he doesn't work anything. And you can see it on the team. It looks clueless while we play. We don't have an idea. We don't have a purpose when we move the ball. It's all pass the ball around, pass the ball around. Pray that the ball reaches either Suarez or Messi or any midfielder able to break a line or two, or Messi Alba, Messi Alba, Messi Alba. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. It's becoming really frustrating because we have a lot of quality in the squad, and we are bound to get even more quality. And Frankie, Griezmann, I think even Neymar is gonna come. A new left back, some new midfielders, but it will always be the same disappointment because we have a manager that doesn't work. He doesn't add anything to the team. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope we win something next season.
Yeah, I agree with Matthew on that. I think the possibility of the treble next season with Valverde, especially if we see the same performances we've seen this season, is very unattainable. I think the maximum or what you should be aiming for next season would be the league, because the Champions League will have better teams competing much harder than they did this season. I think the route this season had been wasn't that hard actually. I mean, we were a team that was afraid of Lyon coming into the Camp Nou. How can you say that you wanted to win the Champions League and you were close to it? I think the problem, as Matthew just said, is 100% within the manager.
You know, the thing is with Valverde, like we had a really easy route to the semifinal. Really easy. Lyon, Manchester United, they were they're managed by absolute mediocre coaches. Bruno Genesio is a joke in France. He's an absolute joke. As for Ole at that point was struggling. He didn't win a lot of games. He kept on losing a lot. And once we reached our first test, we suffered at the Camp Nou against Liverpool. And yes, we know Liverpool is the best team in Europe. They can press you until you lose the ball, no matter how press resistant you are. But the thing is, we lacked an idea. We simply tried to react to Liverpool. And it worked because Messi was on form at the Camp Nou. But at Anfield, Messi missed some chances. Suarez was inexistent. The midfield was an absolute catastrophe. And we Jordi Alba and the defensive players kept on committing silly mistakes, and that punished us. We can't dream of winning the Champions League with a coach that doesn't practice anything. It's impossible.
Do you guys think that this is a thing of complacency by the coach? Do you think he can change his style, or is he already so rooted in this style that it's not possible to win with him? He's not going to change. There has to be a different general coach, head coach leading Barcelona, because as you guys say, there's enough talent in the squad. There's possibly going to be more talent. And another added question that I want to ask you, you say that there's a possibility that Neymar comes to the team. Do you think that Neymar would function or be as effective as he was with Luis Enrique with Ernesto Valverde? You think Neymar could possibly fit into his plans?
Well, regarding your first question, I think it's definitely not an issue of complacency, in my opinion. I think complacency arises when you've won so much. You can talk about this with Pep, with Pep's Man City. You can talk about this with Pep's Barça. You can talk about this arising with even Zidane's Madrid. But you can't talk about this with Valverde's Barcelona. It's just unimaginable. You haven't even won a Champions League, let alone multiple ones, to start talking about complacency. I think it's not complacency. It's just the lack of real talent with this manager. This manager does not have the proper ideas or the proper know-how of how to operate a team at this level, a team that wants to compete for every single trophy every single season. And exactly like you just said, the option is just to get a better manager. And I don't think that you can install this within a 50-year-old right now today, that this is the philosophy we play with, and you're going to have to change your entire footballing capacity just to match this. It's not the fact that he may not want to, it's the fact that he does not know how to. And this problem, not only is it not, I think, Valverde's fault in the beginning, but it's the board's fault for, number one, choosing this type of manager. You know how he plays. We knew how he played with Athletic Bilbao, and we knew the type of achievements that team goes into every single season. They don't they don't want every trophy every single season. We know how they played. We talked plentiful about the way they played and how it was just all cross in the box and pray and all that. And we used to make fun of it and all that. So we know the manager we signed up for. It's not something you can change right now. I think you just need a better manager. And regarding Neymar, I do think that I think Neymar would be Neymar. Neymar is the type of player that will take his talents and he'll flourish under a lot of managers. They don't have to have Pep Guardiola as their manager. I mean, even Luis Enrique, we speak of him now as if he was some sort of footballing genius, and I think a lot of us had a lot of criticisms for him when he was coaching our team. So I do think that he will flourish under Valverde, but again, it won't be the full potential that he'll have under any other player. And fortunately, I don't understand. I don't really understand why he would want to come back under a manager like this.
What about you, Matthew? What do you think of the two questions that I asked?
Well, I think that the problem with Valverde is that it's not that he doesn't know how Barcelona are supposed to play. Everybody knows how Barcelona are supposed to play. Possession, position, pressing. You have to have enough good use of width, players dropping between the lines. But the problem is he doesn't know how to practice this stuff. He's never been at a club that demands to play this type of football. The possession, the how can I say? How can you use the ball with a purpose? How can you uh, with a quick succession of passes or with a meaningful succession of passes to make the ball reach the final third, and then you execute a sort of move, like how Man City does it. You have fullback and winger. The fullback combines with the winger for an overlap and then crosses to the box. You have it either a cross on the floor or a regular cross. It depends. Valverde does not know how to practice moves in the final third. He doesn't know how to practice drills to keep possession, to use possession properly, and he doesn't teach players how to position themselves properly. We can see that Rakitic has the freedom to position himself as a damn center back. Arthur doesn't push forward, while with Brazil, with a coach that we deem as a conservative one, Tite, he pushes up, he pushes higher, he even makes runs in the box. He makes really courageous decisions. Valverde is a cancer. I respect the man. I think he's a very good coach. I think he's one of the best in Spanish football. But he's just not enough. He doesn't know what to practice with this club. Luis Enrique did, and even he failed at the third season. He knows how to practice overlaps, how to practice runs between the players, how to coordinate everything. And he still failed the third season. Now, what do we expect from Valverde? What do we expect from a manager that now has been 2 years at the helm? Yeah, and he didn't add anything to the team in terms of character, of style. The worst part, he suffered two of the biggest humiliations in the history of the club. The most recent one, Anfield, is the second largest defeat in a single tie in the Champions League. The biggest one being Madrid losing to AC Milan 5-0. He demolished the team tactically, and he demolished the mentality now. I don't really think any of the players will be motivated next season. It's done for.
There's also the question with other signings with the arrival of Frankie de Jong. It was speculated that, okay, now we got one of the youngsters from Ajax. Let's try to get the other one, Delete. But recently, it's become quite uncertain. We don't know if he's going to come, if he's going to go to Juventus. Do you think this is something that's going to go on, or is it possible that we land this young defender, this guy, this kid, you could say, even though he's fucking a man already, right? This man that led Ajax to the league title. Do you think we can land him, or are we going to lose the grip on him?
Actually, I think he's gone.
I agree. I think the prospect of Barcelona landing De Ligt is kind of very, very unlikely at this moment. I think the more time that progressed, it was very clear that Barcelona was not willing to meet his wage demands and his agent's demands. And in my opinion, I think it's one of the very few, um, the very few cases where the board nails this correctly, in my opinion, because I mean, no one disagrees on De Ligt's potential and his ability and all that, but I do think that when you bring him in at 19 with such demands, with such an agent, and you want De Ligt paying that much money for him in terms of wage and transfer sum for the very long run, we're talking about a decade or more. And if I'm talking about a decade or more, I'm talking about various contract renewals in the process. I can't have every contract renewal this issue. I can't have Mino Raiola being himself every single time I need to renew this player. I think it's just going to be a problem that gets worse and worse, and it's going to affect other players. I think that losing on De Ligt isn't the end of the world. I think if he comes, it's still a great signing, but I don't think we should go the extra stretch to meet these demands, because they're not just current; they're going to continue coming in the future.
And even so, with how the market's been, that players are getting incredible price tags on them. Do you think that the reason, because every day it seems that Barca and De Ligt stray further away from each other, do you think this is a case of him not wanting to go and sit on Barca's bench? Because if you think about it, right, I don't think that Valverde is gonna bench PK unless we see a very noticeable decline at both technical and physical. I don't think PK is gonna be benched. I don't think that if Umtiti returns 100%, he says he wants to return 200%. Right? He comes with that mentality that I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna take my spot in the starting 11. Do you think if these both central defenders are healthy, Delete has certainly earned his spot, but in the bench, do you think that's going to be something that straying him away from Barca, that he's not going to be a starting defender? Or is it Mino, is his agent, who's whispering things in his ears? What do you think about it?
No, I don't
Well,
think that.
okay,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Matthew.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. Okay. No, I don't think that the fact that he knows he won't be playing all games next season is the deterrent here. I don't think that's that 100%. De Ligt's a smart guy. He knows he's 19, and he knows that once he comes, probably Umtiti will be sold, and he knows that Longley will be playing instead of him. But he's also smart knowing that PK, his best years are behind him. So I don't think that that's the main issue right now with him. I don't think at all that the starting role. I mean, he's obviously going to be promised, 30, 40 games a season out of the 65 games that we could be playing. But yeah, I think that the main reason here is Mino Raiola and the wage demands that are just absurd.
What do you think, Matthew? Is it a case of the player, or is it a case of the agent deciding where the player should go?
Actually, from what I've read, I think that De Ligt's wages and will be similar to Frankie de Jong's, as well as the transfer fee. The problem here is that Barcelona, as the club, does not want to pay Mino Raiola. They don't want to pay his commission, and that's the problem. As for playing time, I guess if we've signed De Ligt, he would have played as a starter, no debate at all. He would have played alongside PK with the Longley as a third choice, and Umtiti sold because Umtiti has been suffering from his knee problems for over 2 seasons now. Since 2017, he hasn't given us a single good performance. Not good, as good as he was in those 2 months between October and November before he got injured. Back then, he was a beast of a center back. He almost won all of his duels. His distribution was nice. He had a nice understanding with PK, although PK at that moment was at a down point. But I think if De Ligt came, hypothetically speaking, he would have started, no debate at all, and Umtiti would have been sold.
Changing from player, not topic, we're still in the signings. There's this possibility that either Neymar comes or either Griezmann comes to Barca. There's also the talks, right? The speculation that Ernesto Valverde would welcome both of them. Do you think that with Suarez declining and his recent form in the recent years, do you think that Griezmann is the striker to have, or are there better options out there in the market? What do you think, Abdullah?
Well, I agree 100% with the signing of Griezmann. I think Griezmann should have came last season. He's a very, very important player and one that we definitely do need. And not only because of Suarez's decline, that's, I think, very obvious to a lot of people. And if you want to capitalize on his value, and he's about, 32 right now? If you want to capitalize on this, you have to sell him quickly. So not only the fact that Suarez is declining and you need Griezmann, but also the fact that Griezmann is very, very able to play on the right and on the left. He's a very versatile type of player, and not only that, but he has been playing in Simeone's system for years. And he knows the defensive know-hows. He's a very good player defensively, also. And then when you talk about a player like Messi who doesn't defend as much to maintain his fitness and stamina, you definitely need a player like Griezmann. So I do think that Griezmann's signing is 100% logical, reasonable, in fact, very much needed. I think also Neymar, though. I'm not against Neymar signing from a sporting perspective. I think that Neymar is Neymar. He's a world-class player, top three, easily top three. He makes a difference on any team he's in. He knows the city, he knows the club, all that. But I think I'm against his signing more on the basis of how he left. The lawsuits against the club, the fact that he was willing to go through all that, the fact that he really put us through a string in 2 months of just pure embarrassment, and that's why I'm against the signing itself. I'm not surprised that Valverde wants him. Anybody would want Neymar. No one would say no to Neymar. In fact, if you would say no to Neymar, it would be because of the discipline and because of that side of things. And Valverde is 100% not the manager who even has control over these things. So I don't think that would have impacted his judgment at all. So I'm not surprised that Valverde welcomes both of them, but I do definitely think that the priority should be Griezmann, and he's very much needed.
What do you think, Matthew? Neymar, Griezmann, both, none?
Well, if I had to choose between one of them, I'd choose Neymar because we are more in need of a winger that can dribble, that can make the difference out wide, and a creative one. Then we do need a player who can finish his chances. But with the obvious decline of Suarez, and I love Suarez, I really think he's the best nine of his generation, and I've defended him multiple times. But it's time to move on. It's time to sell him. And I think that if we are to sell Suarez, even in his declining version, he provides us with a lot. I mean, he's very creative on his day. He can score a lot of goals. But the best possible replacement in the market is Antoine Griezmann, because he overachieves his XG by a lot of goals. He is very efficient. You can't stress enough about the fact that Griezmann takes really low XG chances and scores them with Atletico Madrid because they don't provide that excellent service that Zidane's Madrid used to provide to the forwards, or they don't have Xavi or Iniesta or a very creative midfielder for that fact. They only rely on counterattacks, and most of the balls he receives are very bad ones, and he still scores them. So yeah, Griezmann is needed. A player of Neymar's qualities, stature is needed. So what I'd say is sell Suarez, sign Neymar, sign Griezmann, and use either Dembele or Malcolm as a substitute for them.
With the recent departure of our backup goalkeeper, Jasper Silsen, do you think that with the signing of Neto from Valencia, that he's going to be able to be that backup goalkeeper that was Silesen, or was it just plain wrong from Barcelona to leave, to let go of Silesen? What do you think, Matthew?
Well, Silesen as a second goalkeeper, he was absolutely excellent. Whenever called up, he was marvelous. The thing is, you can't keep a goalkeeper that good on the bench, playing only 10 games a year. That's simply impossible. The guy has his ambitions. He wants to go to a club where he'll be a starter every game. There was a choice, either sign an experienced goalkeeper or count on Iñaki Peña. And Iñaki Peña is a young player. You can't give a young player only 10 games a year. And what if Ter Stegen gets injured? And then you count on Iñaki Peña, an experienced goalkeeper. He commits a lot of mistakes. Even Ter Stegen, in her first 3 seasons, he committed a lot of mistakes. That will ruin his confidence. And don't forget how Catalan newspaper can be ruthless. I think that Iñaki Peña should either stay with the reserves or go on loan to a Bundesliga club, learn about the intensity of professional football, and come back 2 years later. The sign of Neto was bizarre, weird, shady. You can name it whatever you like. But on a sporting level, it does the job. He's a veteran. He's a decent goalkeeper. Been with Valencia for over 2 seasons now, and he's been doing a great job. I'm not saying no, but the way in which the deal was conducted, it's very shady. I don't like it.
We've also signed Emerson, right back from Atletico, from Brazil, 20-year-old for 12 million euros. Do you think that this man can put the pressure on Sergio Roberto, or is he just a backup player?
Nobody can put pressure on Sergio Roberto. He is undisputed for Valverde. There's Sergi, Busquets, Pique, Alba, Suarez, Messi. All of them are undisputed. Rakitic, you can't replace them. Why? Because they are heavyweights in the locker room. Their voices matter. And no matter who we bring in, Well, at the exception of Dani Alves. If Dani Alves comes, Roberto is gone. No right back will be able to bench Sergio Roberto, no matter how bad he is. But I've only heard the good words about Emerson from a few Betis fans. I've never watched him. I don't know how he is, what his play style is. Only heard good words. So if he joins from Betis, I think we'll see in the preseason how he fares.
What do you think, Abdullah? With the recent signing of Brazilian right back Emerson, is there a possibility that Valverde is going to remove Sergio Roberto from the right back spot and either bench him or play him in the midfield where he should be, or is this just a backup signing?
Yeah, I agree with Matthew on this one. I don't think that Valverde signed Emerson to take Roberto's spot. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that the obvious choice for Valverde is Roberto, and he won't let go of that. I, however, don't agree with that, like Matthew, and I think that Roberto shouldn't not only be a backup, but I think he should be sold. I don't. I wasn't really a fan of his playing style at right back or even in midfield. So I do approve, and I do think that he should be sold. And I think Semedo should be our number one right back.
So I've mentioned Neto. I've mentioned Emerson. Those two are the only signings that we've done apart from Frankie de Jong. But if you look into perspective at Real Madrid, they signed Eden Hazard, Luka Jovic. They signed Militao, Mendy, Rodrigo. Do you think that Barca should be worried? Because so far, there's no sign of a move being completed in the coming days. And Real Madrid has already signed 5 good players for more than 40 million. Eden Hazard being 100 million. Do you think that Barca should be pressured into acting right now, or is it just gonna take it slow? What do you think, Abdullah?
I think we should be worried and we should be frustrated, but not with the fact that Real Madrid's been signing all these players, because I still think our squad is better than their squad. I mean, you have Messi, you have all these great players, you have the possibility of signing Griezmann and even Neymar, and you've signed De Jong, and the squad is fine. But I do think that you should be very worried of Real Madrid because of the manager we have, because of Valverde. When you look at all these different problems, they all return back to Valverde. He's a very, very incompetent manager. He should not be managing a team of this status. And again, that's the main reason why we should be worried. It's not because Real Madrid's squad is now much, much better than ours and all that. I think our squad can still compete and can still win the league at least over 38 weeks. But with Valverde, everything is up in the air. You don't know if that will happen or not.
What do you think, Matthew? Should Barca be worried about the recent signings from Real Madrid? Should they act and try to sign players as well, or take it slow, not be preoccupied for about what Real Madrid is doing?
Well, personally, I've been frustrated with the signings of Madrid because in one season they spotted all the wrongs in their squad and they signed the perfect fits. They lack an excellent left back that can compete with Marcelo. They got in Mendy, who is a player that I followed a lot with the Olympique Lyonnais. He's really good. He's his dribbling is insane. He can cross, something Alba hasn't learned yet in over a very long career. They needed a number 9 who can complement with Benzema, and they brought in Jovic. They brought Hazard finally after years of waiting. So yes, this is very frustrating as a Barca fan to see Madrid purchase not only the good players but the right players. But I think we should take it slow. Panic purchases never work. We should be slow on dealing with the Griezmann situation. Apparently, Atletico Madrid want Semedo included in the deal, and the same with the Paris Saint-Germain. They want Semedo also included in the deal, and another player. I think it's either Coutinho or Rakitic. I think the board should take it slow. sporting directors also, because there's still a lot of time before preseason. If you make rash decisions, it will cost you over a whole season. They need to take their time.
Before we finish with the signings, I want to talk about real quickly about La Masia. La Masia is this place where we've known to develop players, turn them into world-class players. You could look at Messi, Iniesta, Xavi, PK, to name a few. Do you think La Masia will have relevance in the near future or in 5 to 10 years from now? Because it's been forgotten. I don't know if the board has any interest in continuing with this Masia project, or if it's just going to be to chip in a little bit of money for these really good players, and then another team is going to develop them and take advantage of their talents. What do you think, Matthew?
Well, from what I've seen from La Masia players currently, there are a lot that are very mediocre. But there are good ones, like Ricky Puig and Mori, who has been transferred to Borussia Dortmund, the right back. I think that the board currently doesn't have a project at all. No project for the first team, no project economically, and certainly not a project for La Masia. They only count on it as a peanut factory. They take the peanuts, they sell it for cheap or loan it somewhere to gain a little of money for the books, and that's it. But I think that the next president, be it Victor Font or Agusti Benedito, Laporta, or anything, will take care of La Masia, will put a good project that will get us to see a lot of players promoted to the first team. But if Cardoner, Bartomeu's vice president, rises to the presidency, I think everything will continue on this way. No project, nothing at all. Only politicians manipulating the media, hiring mediocre coaches with flashy signings. That's it.
And also, you have to take into consideration that Messi is not getting any younger. We can't be experimenting with this or that youngster and see how he fits into the team, into the squad, how he fits into Valverde's game plan. So it could be that right now, La Masia won't be in the projects of whoever is president, whoever is a coach, or at least that's how I view it. Because the thing is, you're going to have to find players in the market that fit the squad and take advantage of the best player in the world right now, Lionel Messi, while we still have him, while he's still got his thing, you know. But what about once he retires? Do you think we can go back to him, back to La Masia, and try to search for these young players, see what we can get out of what rough diamond is there, and try to develop him into a world-class player? Or is this project just not going to happen under Valverde and Bartomeu? What do you think, Abdullah?
Well, I agree 100% with what Matthew said regarding the first point. I do think that it's in shambles right now. There shouldn't be any hope that this current board will repair any of what's happening right now. They're just simply trying to make profit off what they have. Regarding, I think the only optimism you can have is if a better president comes in 2 years, and that's not a long time. I think that's doable, and I think as Matthew said, Benedito, Font, Laporta, even anybody who comes, I think they'll take good care of La Masia as well. Regarding your point about Messi, I don't think that you should be expecting a Messi from La Masia. You know, I don't think that if that's what you're hoping for, I think we'll be very surprised and very frustrated at the end of the day, because it's a once in a lifetime type of talent. You don't see this. This isn't an everyday type of thing. So I don't think that once you pay more attention to La Masia, you'll find another Messi, or or anybody else would come and, you know, fill in that hole, because it's not an easy hole to fill. It's messy, and I think once he retires, you're gonna have to look at different solutions. Yes, you can take players from La Masia, but you're gonna have to look at you're going to need a proper structuring and a proper structure. I'm sorry, and a proper sporting plan. How do you go forward from Messi? How do you continue to play in the same way that we've been used to for decades without Messi? And we've done it before Messi, and I think that we can continue to do it. However, you just need a proper project. You need proper planning. You need to find players that fit your style and suit the type of play that we want. And I think that that may come from La Masia. You may have to buy a few prospects. Um, but yeah, I don't think that you should rely 100% on the Messi replacement coming from La Masia because I think it's highly, highly unlikely.
Yeah, if you think about it, Messi is a transcendental player. Once in a lifetime, you're not going to find him right around the corner. And if you find a player that even comes close to his potential or how good Messi has been, and for how long, how consistent he's been, you're going to have to take very good care of that player. You're going to have to try and develop him, play a style that is going to make him flourish, as you said. And it's true. We probably won't find another Messi or a player even close to Messi in the Masia, or at least the current situation. We'll finish here, guys, with the podcast, and we'll go to Q&A, quick Q&A, if that's good with you, Abdullah, Matthew.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so this question comes from Facebook. Should Justin Kluivert be our target for the future to play as a left wing? The duo of Dembele and Kluivert would be awesome. What do you guys think? Should Barca pursue this player for the future?
Well, I think Kluivert is a very good player. However, he's very young. I can't say right now if we should pursue him for I don't know 5 more years to become a starting left winger at the club. However, he is a good player. He is very talented. But I think I still need to see more to be able to judge on something like this of this magnitude, really. But he is a good player, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is pursued in the future.
What do you think, Matthew?
I honestly haven't watched enough of Clavier to judge. I only know he's a very good winger, a very decent one, but I don't think that he should be an option for Barcelona. There are better players, younger players, with a higher ceiling. There's Mbappe. There is a certain player I really like Neres, Richarlison from Everton. I think those are the players that can reach a higher level. But Clavier, I don't know.
This is another question from Facebook. It says, what would be the impact of the arrival of Griezmann and Neymar, if this happens, on Messi's position and Barca's style of play? What do you think, Matthew?
Well, the style will not change at all. It will always be the mediocre nonsense Valverde feeds us every week. But it will allow Messi finally to reposition himself in the hole as a false nine. No more awkward flank positioning, because he will not work defensively unless he's in the mood to. So it will allow us to have Griezmann on the right, Neymar on the left, with Messi in the hole. They can make their runs. They can take a player one-on-one. Griezmann to a lesser extent than Neymar. But I think it will give us a really fluid front line, and I hope for the best. There will be more goals, that's for sure.
What do you think, Abdullah? Would this be a big impact on Messi's position and the way Barca has been playing for the last 2 years?
I don't think again it'll impact the style that much. I think that yes, you'll be a little bit more direct now because you have players who can, at least Neymar, who can take on players one on one and just create space out of nothing. So I think that would change a little bit. You would get more goals, as Matthew stated. And regarding Messi, I think you could kind of see Messi not only as a false nine, but more again as a winger, maybe. If you put Griezmann in the middle, you get a little bit more fluidity, and you there's more option, there's more room to change and experiment with that. Um, so yeah, I do think that you will see a subtle change, but I don't think it'll impact the larger picture that Valverde has been painting.
This next question comes from Twitter, and it says, "Whom do you prefer among Neymar and Griezmann?" So this is a speculation that if we could only take one, right? Who do you prefer and why? He states that financially we can't afford both of them. I don't know how true that is, but let's go with the question that we can't afford both of them. Who would you sign and why? Abdullah?
I would send Griezmann. I think Griezmann is the necessity and not the luxury. In the case of Neymar, in my opinion, at least, I think that Neymar. Is obviously Neymar. I said this multiple times today. He's a great player and he'll definitely help you. But I think Griezmann, you really need him because he can do the defensive workload. He'll take that off a little bit off Messi. Suarez hasn't been doing that much, and at the same time, Suarez is declining, and you need a proper striker. So I think Griezmann is definitely the priority. And I do think that we can afford both, actually, if we can offload Coutinho, for example, if we can get rid of Rakitic, Umtiti, all the deadwood and the extra weight we have, and we're not really benefiting from.
What about you, Matthew? Who would you choose between Neymar and Griezmann if you could only sign one?
Well, I'd like to correct the guy who sent us the message. We can sign both. We can. We can just offload Rakitic, Sergio Roberto, Umtiti, Coutinho, Suarez, and the other deadwood that we sold recently, Dennis, Gomez.
Paco, Gomez.
that sort of third tier player. I think that if I am to choose between one of them, I would go with Neymar. I'm not a big fan of the person, but the player, to me, he's the second best player in the world. Individually, he can make the difference. He can score a lot of goals. He's very creative. And we are more in a need of a winger that can make the difference out wide than we do need. I don't know, a player who is associative, who can combine, who can score. Neymar can do whatever Griezmann does, but Griezmann cannot do what Neymar does. That's the difference. So I'd go with the Brazilian.
Although we didn't talk about it in this podcast, currently there's the African Cup of Nations being played, and one of the questions we got on Facebook was, how good do you suppose an African team would get if it would be directed by European coaches? What do you think, guys? Would an African team excel and develop even better with an European coach? What do you think, Matthew?
Well, from personal experience, as a Moroccan, we have Hervé Renard, and Hervé Renard is a French coach. He's taken us from the pits of hell. We've been like a running joke in Africa for over decades, ever since 2004. And he changed the team completely. We've became like the most entertaining team in Africa, alongside Senegal and now the new Algeria. I think that local coaches are less good than the European ones. But in the case of Abdullah's national team, Egypt, they've had Shahata, and he's been one of the most successful in Africa. He has 3 AFCONs to his name.
What do you think, Matthew? Under an European coach, would the African nations develop even faster or better than under local head coaches?
Not necessarily, in my opinion. As Matthew just stated, I'm Egyptian, and I think our best coach ever has been Hassan Shahata. He won 3 African Cup of Nations in a row. No one has ever done that. And again, he's a local man, and we've had European coaches and we've had different international ones. And I think it's a very broad question because It depends on the African team. It depends on the squad they have. It depends on what they've went through, their history, and all that. And it depends on the manager who's coming in. You can't say that all European managers are one caliber, and that they're all come in and magically do this sort of thing. It's a unique thing, and you can't really just assume that it will work with all these teams. However, I get the question in the sense that the fabric and the potential is there for these African teams. When you look at teams like Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, Senegal, Ghana, all these teams have great squads and they have great potential. But I don't think that you necessarily need a European coach to unleash it all.
Yeah, I mean, just look at Algeria. They've had a lot of potential now, ever since their 2014 World Cup, but they failed miserably under a lot of coaches who are European. And and now currently they are with Jamal Belmadi, and he is an Algerian. He's a local man, and he's made them currently in this 2019 African Cup of Nations the most entertaining side of the competition. And he's a local man. You don't need really European or international coaches to fulfill whatever it is that the squad can do. No, you just need the right man at the right time with the right backing from the federations. That's it.
Absolutely. I think that Algeria is the best team so far in this tournament. I think they're the favorites to win after the 3 matches I've watched from them. I think followed by Morocco, Egypt, and maybe Senegal. These are the biggest 4 and the ones that I think will have the best chances to go and get the gold.
Well, the competition is still to end. There's right now the round of 16 with interesting teams like Egypt and Morocco in there. Who do you think is going to win the competition, Abdullah?
I'm Egyptian, so I will say Egypt. Not just out of the fact that I support the team and I love them, but the fact that I think in the toughest moments and against the toughest opponents, we tend to get it done. We may not play the best style, but against, again, the big opponents, we really do well. We faced Morocco, we faced Ivory Coast, we faced Algeria on multiple occasions amongst multiple competitions, and most of the time we come out on top. Against those big teams, I think Egypt can get it done. I think they've been pretty good this tournament, not as much as we expected, but I think their biggest issues are defensively. And however, I am optimistic, and I think they can get it done.
What about you, Matthew? Who thinks is going to be the team to lift it at the end of the tournament?
Well, actually, I'd love if Morocco wins the whole competition. We haven't won since the 70s. It's been a long time. But realistically, I think Egypt, because whenever a big nation hosts the African Cup of Nations, they usually win it because they have the supporters' backings. I think Algeria also has a chance, but from what I can remember, there is no team that plays well that wins the African Cup of Nations. You need to be really dirty and efficient. And that's what Egypt are. There's Egypt and there's Nigeria. I think both are my top picks.
Okay. And with this, we finalize the second edition of La Senyera Podcast. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video if you liked it. Comment down below if you have any comments or suggestions for future video. Follow us on our social media. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Abdullah and Matthew for joining me today. This was Bryan, your host. Abdullah.
Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in, and let's wait for the next podcast.
And thank you, Matthew.
No, thank you for having me, man. It was a lot of fun.
See you guys.